We have people who are continuing to paint this narrative that the hard thing and doing the hard thing and just sucking it up and getting out there and grinding your way through it is what ultimately determines your value, determines your worth, determines if you're creating personal and self-development, but yet fail to take responsibility for those in which they're speaking to, fail to take responsibility for those in which it's moving through. And so I've been hard on this cause and hard against this movement for a long time. Not that I'm saying the habits and behaviors that he's trying to get people to do, which is exercise more, which is pay more attention to how they're operating. That's what a life by design is. That's what ownership is all about. But it's the mentality in which you do it with.
This is the Own It Show, where we tell stories of how everyday people made ownership theirs.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Own It Show. I'm your host, Justin Rothling-Schofer, and it's so good to be here with you guys. If this is your first time joining the Own It Show, first off, welcome. I love it when new people listen to this show, when new people get introduced to this show, because really at the end of the day, what we stand for is helping you take ownership of your health, but also of your life. And that's what we talk about this sense of ownership with. And so you're going to see on this show a combination of me, a combination of other guests that I bring on that have gone from what life was pre-ownership to now a life of post-ownership. And so today, again, we're diving into episode 314, which is super exciting. And at the end of the day, consistency compounds. And that is what we do here every single day. So if something I say today resonates with you, if something I say today you love, if there's something I say today that you just don't like and it triggers you, I want you to share it. I want you to comment on it. I want you to help other people get exposed to it. And ultimately, so we can have a greater dialogue and a greater conversation that might ultimately help somebody else and set somebody else free. So today, what we're diving into is, what does it mean to do hard things? What does it mean to do hard things? Because I've been living in this sentiment and kind of like in this space of conflict for a little while now. And a lot of people in this health and human performance and mindset and personal development space have really just fallen in love with David Goggins. And we know that he wrote the book, Can't Hurt Me. He wrote another book that just came out. The reason that I don't know the title is because I didn't read it. I only made my way through the book, Can't Hurt Me, about a quarter of the way through twice. I wasn't able to get past it, and I'll talk a little bit about that today. But I think the biggest thing that we have to sit into is, why do we listen to the people we listen to? Why do we champion the people that we champion in this world? Why do we follow the people we follow in this world? Is it for entertainment purposes? Is it for mentorship purposes? Is it for guidance purposes? What does it actually mean? And why are we actually here? Why are we paying attention? Why are you listening to this show versus something else? And so that's a question that I want to pose to you, and something that I want you to sit and think about. And while you sit and you think about this, I want to start with a little bit of a story and why this is something that is so heavily on my heart and something that speaks to me in a big, big way. I wasn't always the guy that had confidence to stand out against the crowd. I did it oftentimes, but it was something that tore me up inside. I wasn't always the person that was secure in who I was. I was the person who always needed to be validated. I was the person who never thought I was good enough. I was the person who always had a chip on my shoulder, feeling like I had to prove that I was worthy. And the more that I stood there, the more that I stayed there, the more that I listened to the noise in this human performance and self-development space, the more that I felt like I wasn't worthy, the more that I felt like I had to continue to become something bigger and better, that what I was not good enough. And even every step and every pursuit and every investment in myself that I made was just not enough. And there was always going to be more. There should always be more. There should always be another step. And yet nothing was ever celebrated. Nothing was ever validated. And nothing was ever made clear that the journey is ultimately where it is. And the pursuit not of becoming somebody, but becoming more Christ-like is really what we're actually after. Is really what this whole thing comes from, which is why this self-development, this human performance, this human health space has found itself in the place that it is, where it is so absent of God. It is so absent of what actually makes you full and makes you whole. You see, you've got people like David Goggins, you've got people like that who are constantly influencing others, who are putting their stamp on things and claiming it as truth. And it's moving people, but it's not rooted in the gospel. It's not rooted in the truth. It's not rooted in what's actually real. And so no matter how much work you do, no matter how much you aspire, and no matter how hard you pursue, you're never going to feel whole. And so for me, that was literally my story. That was literally my story. I would train every single day. I would do hard things. I would go, I still remember this mentality hit me when I was like 13, 14 years old. I would not eat all day. I would limit what I was allowing myself to eat. I would run up and down stairs. I would run from class to class. I would do squats at my locker before I was able to grab books out. I would work out in my free blocks. I would get to school early and train. I would go to the rink and skate during lunch hour. I would go and play on 2 different sports teams. Then I'd go play hockey at night. I'd sleep in my basement, which was about 10 to 12 degrees cooler than the rest of the house. I'd sleep naked. I wouldn't allow myself to have any blankets, because I knew being cold was what you needed to do in order to not only burn more calories, but also just get through something hard. I would take cold showers in the middle of the freezing winter. And I still remember feeling exhausted all the time and feeling frustrated that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't good enough, even though I was doing all the hard things that I was supposed to be doing. And I was earning my right to be able to be hard. And that led me down a path of anorexia, led me down a path of body image issues, led me down a path of kidney failure, led me down a path of liver failure, led me down a path of depression, of suicidal ideation. All of these things that I had to wear the burden of and go through, all in pursuit of feeling worthy, feeling good enough, and feeling like I had accomplished something. But yet we have people who are continuing to paint this narrative that the hard thing and doing the hard thing and just sucking it up and getting out there and grinding your way through it is what ultimately determines your value, determines your worth, determines if you're creating personal and self-development, but yet fail to take responsibility for those in which they're speaking to, fail to take responsibility for those in which it's moving through. And so I've been hard on this cause and hard against this movement for a long time. Not that I'm saying the habits and behaviors that he's trying to get people to do, which is exercise more, which is pay more attention to how they're operating. That's what a life by design is. That's what ownership is all about. But it's the mentality in which you do it with. And David Goggins posted on social media the other day. I'll back up again. I did a post on this where I commented after a video that he had done where he had just had both of his legs broken on purpose to help some bone twisting and some restructuring that he had going on. He did this surgery. He came back like 10 days later. He was doing push-ups on a stage because somebody had asked him to. And he's like, I do hard things. And everyone's just, Goggins, just like vaulting this man as a god as he's on stage doing this. And he's like, that's the mentality that's going to get you to the next level. That's going to get you the life you want. That's going to get you the life you deserve. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to be anywhere. And all of this was going on. And I posted in the comments, I said, why do we celebrate this? ? And his whatever, I don't even know how many followers he has. It's in the several millions. All of a sudden start just jumping down my throat. And the anger, the hate, the bitterness, the resentment, the insecurity that came through in those comments. Oh my gosh. It was incredible. It was incredible. And the reason that I say that is because your followership is a direct reflection of your leadership. Your followership is a direct reflection of your leadership. And so you can't tell me that David leads from love. You can't tell me that David leads from truth. You can't tell me that David leads from a space of wound that has now been healed, because his followership leads from a space of anger, leads from a space of hate, leads from a state of resentment, leads from a space of insecurity. And a leader who has yet to heal himself simply bleeds all over everybody else because he hasn't stepped into, or she hasn't stepped into, healing what is necessary, and really hasn't taken what should be hard, quote unquote, for themselves because they hide from it. And so with that comment, and obviously a lot of other people who've spoken out about what goes on in the David Goggins world. David set out and put a video out about a week ago, and he's doing this camp. It's called Haters Camp. And the idea of Haters Camp is he's going to bring in 15 people who either can't stand him or are against what he's saying or don't believe in a lot of what he's preaching. And he's going to put these on. He's going to film it. He's going to make a big documentary. He's going to almost make a reality show out of it. And he's going to basically try to break these 15 people and show that he's better, his way is better, his way wins. And again, elevate him, his brand, and what he's all about. Now, here's the thing. When I saw that, I was like, man, I do not want to be a part of that. I do not want to lean into that. I actually don't want any part of this. But then as the more I thought about it, I started to be like, you know what? I would love to be the person that is different on there. I'd love to be the person that leans in. And the only way in which you could actually get access to this or be involved in this is if you sent an email with the subject line Haters Camp as to why you'd want to be somebody that came to this. And the more that I sat on this, the more I was like, I'm just going to send this email. And so I'm actually going to read it to you. I'm going to read the email that was sent, because it's not enough just for me to do podcasts. It's not enough for me just to make mention on social media. It's not enough for me just to send stuff out in newsletters. But to be able to show that, hey, this is something I stand behind. This is something that I'm truly with and willing to show up, I think is really where this talks about the truth. Because even when we go back to our greatest leader and who we're supposed to embody, which is Jesus, if you were to see who his disciples were, his disciples literally embodied him. They embodied love. They embodied transformation. That's what they were all about, which is why I say your followership is a direct reflection of your leadership. And so I went in and I wrote this email, and this is the email that I sent. I said, David, I wish the name of this camp was different because I don't hate you. In fact, I love you as I love all people. However, I strongly disagree with the methods and delivery of what is put out there through content, books, and the movement you're behind. It comes from a place of anger and rage that hits people that, like me at one point, actually impacts them in a negative way. And I was one of those people. The reason I want to come to this camp, and I hope you're doing everything with us, is not to beat you, is not to show you I'm right or that you're wrong, but rather I have a desire to show you that love is stronger than hate, and you don't have to be divisive, abrasive, aggressive, and angry to lead and make a difference. You have an audience size to change the world and influence that could cause a massive ripple in what we're experiencing today in a world that is more than divisive than ever. If you were to help people build a strong mindset built on love, not hate and aggression, you ultimately could drive that. But it starts with you healing first. That's my reason why I want to come. As I said, I hope you do everything with us so that no matter what we're about to be put through, you can see the power in a loving leader in difficult situations. I never had a loving leader show me the way until Jesus radically changed my heart. And it's more powerful than anything. Can't Hurt Me, title of his book. Not because I'm stronger than you or better than you, but because I'm a son of God, just as you are. You may not bring me on because I'm not divisive enough. You might not bring me on because I don't hate you enough. You might not bring me on because I'm not outspoken and argumentative and combative enough, and that is fine. But I welcome the opportunity to share the light and to show you what a life differently looks like. And so that was the email I sent. That was the email I sent almost 2 weeks ago, and I've yet to hear back. But this is where it comes from, because guys, you have to understand that when you, as an audience, start to lean in and quote David Goggins more than you do Jesus, there's an issue. When you start to quote people who are telling you to embody certain habits and behaviors that are not followers or walking in the light, you as yourself have to realize that it's actually taking you in a divergent path. Because something that is not rooted in truth is something that's only leading you astray. And real prayer comes from not just gritting your teeth and resisting what gets put in front of you, but rather falling in love with the process. And so I'm going to challenge each and every one of you out there. When you are going for something hard, your hard doesn't necessarily have to be hard. Forever, I thought building a business had to be hard. I thought relationships had to be hard. I thought working out had to be hard. I thought going and living every single day had to be hard. What if it didn't have to be hard? What if it was just a part of the process and you embraced the process and you loved the process and you actually listened to what God was calling you for and you leaned in a little bit deeper, you leaned in a little bit harder, you got a little bit more clear, you got a little bit more focused on His word and not somebody else's word, and you stepped in powerfully to things that might not make sense today. And the difficult things were actually the things that you were hiding from. Not the hard in which you're grinding your teeth and just bearing it and resisting every difficult thing and saying, I'm doing hard things and I am worthy and this is proof that I'm actually stepping into it. What if it was doing the hard thing that you didn't want to do, but God was calling you to? What if that was the hard thing? What if that was the difficult thing? And so I want to challenge you as you listen to this podcast, as you listen to this word that's dropped in here, who are you quoting more? David Goggins or Jesus? You can insert anybody's name for David Goggins. But what does that look like in your life? How does that manifest in your life? How does that create fruit in your life? Is it poison fruit? Is it rotten fruit? Is it fruit that doesn't taste good? Is it fruit that you ultimately have a bite of and then have instant regret for? Or is it fruit that is sweet, that is abundant, that is plentiful, that is regenerative, that is life-giving? What does that fruit look like? And so I challenge you, and I encourage you to take an audit of who you're listening to, who you're quoting, and who you're allowing to speak into your life. Just because somebody runs, just because somebody's fit, just because somebody looks like they have their life in line, doesn't mean they're walking with the Lord. And their messaging will tell you immediately. And if you get caught into the trap of mimicking the habits, the behaviors, the mindset, and the thought process of how somebody like that behaves because you like the outcomes and you like what's happening, you like the trends, realize that the fruit on the other side is not going to be what it's all about. And you don't have to grind away. You don't have to do hard things. You don't have to continue to push the boulder uphill and be angry, bitter, and resentful and go to a dark and angry space in order to see breakthrough, in order to see the fruit, in order to see the greatness. All you have to tap into is who God has called you to be. And even though they might look the same, they feel different. Even though they look the same, they feel different. Even though you're still running 2 miles, it will feel different. Even though you're doing a push-up or pull-up competition, they will feel different. Even though you are stepping in and doing the same workouts, they will feel different because they're not rooted in truth, and the truth will set you free. And so if this resonates with you, if you're looking for something different, I encourage you to get plugged in to the Own It community. I continue to encourage you to go read The Power of Ownership, the book that I just put out. I continue to go and listen to past episodes of this podcast. I encourage you to follow me on social media. I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. I encourage you to get engaged in the Own It community, because that is the community that is rooted in the truth. That is the community that is rooted in God. That is the community that is rooted in helping you find who you are so you can heal from the inside out. You can heal your heart. You can heal your mind. You can heal your soul so you can ultimately heal your body. You can become a better leader. You can step into what you were called to. You can step into your potential and leave nothing on the table. Because at the end of the day, that's what attracts you to people like David Goggins. That is what attracts you to this space. But at the end of the day, if you're drinking the Kool-Aid, if you're drinking rotten wine, you will only find sickness at the end of the day. And that's not what I want for you. If you're going to spend the time, if you're going to invest the resources, if you're going to spend the energy, then you might as well get the fruit at the end of the day. And it's time for you to choose something different. It's time for you to take a stand and say, you know what? I know this isn't rooted in truth. I know I find myself more angry. I know I find myself more resentful. I know I find myself doing things that I typically wouldn't be doing. And I'm getting some of the results that I want, but I still feel empty on the inside. I still know this isn't where I'm meant to be. That's your sense. That's your trigger. That's what sets you apart. That's what allows you to know you have to make a different decision. But guess what? To get something different, it starts with making a different choice. Choose different, live different, own your different, and that is the moment that your life becomes different. But it's not rooted in doing the same thing. It's not rooted in people who are disguising what the truth actually looks like. But the choice is yours. The choice is yours. And so I encourage you again, get involved, do something different, make a different choice, because not everything has to be so freaking hard. If this resonates with you, I encourage you to share this with somebody. Share this with somebody who this message is going to resonate with. And this, to be honest with you, is and will be your first step. Because if you've had an encounter, Charles preached this the other day, it was beautiful. If you've had an encounter and you want to be different, then your habit should be different as well. So make sharing this podcast, make sharing this episode with somebody your first step to doing something different. Share it with 2 people. Share it with 2 people that you know need to hear this word. Share it with 2 people that you know need to hear this word. And that is your first step to choosing something different. That is your first step to doing something different. Because until you lean in, until you have a desire to do something different, until you have a desire for awareness, you're going to stay exactly where you are. And your participation is a direct correlator to the results that you're going to get. We know success is different. You deserve different, but it requires you to choose different. We'll see you next week.